New this morning, Democrats are threatening to subpoena the nation's top national security officials after the director of national intelligence informed congressional leaders that his office will no longer do in-person briefings for lawmakers about election security issues. We're 2 months before the election, and the DNI has said we're no longer going to brief you in person. Why? This came after the last briefing, which said that Russia is trying to help re-elect President Trump, and also talked about China and Iran as well. Joining us now is Senator Angus King. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee. Senator King, thank you so much for being with us this morning. What is lost? Tell us what is lost by ending in-person briefings of members of Congress.
Well, John, the way you characterize this was Congress was not being briefed. The real story is that the people are not being briefed. By cutting off these briefings, and particularly the in-person part, what we're basically saying is the intelligence community may know something nefarious is going on. They may know Russia is attacking us in a variety of ways, but they're not going to tell us. And if they don't tell us, they're effectively not telling the American people. The best defense we have against foreign meddling in our election is for the people to know it's going on, so they can weigh the evidence, they can understand the source, where it's coming from. And this decision is outrageous. I mean, it basically, the question I ask is, who are these guys working for?
What do you mean?
They don't swear an oath to the President of the United States. Who does the intelligence community work for? They work for the people of the United States. Their oath is to the Constitution, not to the president. The people deserve whatever information they have, subject to reasonable classification for sources and methods, but whatever information they have about Russian or other foreign governments meddling in our election, we ought to get that information.
Why? Why would the intelligence community want us, not just Congress, but you say the American people, to know less about foreign efforts to attack our elections?
Well, it's not the intelligence community, John. It's the director of national intelligence, who was a Republican congressman, a big supporter of President Trump. That's who's made this decision. I'm guessing that there are people, in fact, I'm quite sure there are people in the intelligence community who are astounded and angry about this decision. So it's not like everybody in the intelligence community is saying we don't want to share this information. It's the political appointee at the top that's making this decision. And again, I emphasize the people being hurt by this. I mean, this isn't a spat between Congress and the president or Democrats and Republicans. This is a fundamental right of the people to know what their government knows about foreign interference in the election. After all, our tax money paid for this collection of intelligence. We, all the people, members of Congress and the people, should know what they know. If the intelligence committee learns something that's really dangerous coming at us and they don't tell us, then, what's the point?
I guess what I'm asking is, this comes after it was reported, or has been reported by CNN and others, that one of the last briefings, the members of Congress were told that Russia is actively, again, trying to help elect Donald Trump. Also, in these briefings, it mentioned intentions of China and Iran. But if that's what happened the last time, why would anyone, the DNI, who, as you said, was a Republican congressman, want to keep this information secret or controlled going forward?
Well, I can't get into the head of these people, but we have a president who never likes to hear the word Russia, at least not in the context of relationships or of Russia meddling in our elections. Why? John, I hate to say this, but it looks like a pre-cover-up. It looks like they don't want to share the information. They're covering up information that may or may not. I don't know what they've got or not, or what they have or don't have. But it looks like they're trying to keep this information from the public so that when everybody goes to vote on November 3rd, they won't know to the extent to which they've been attempted to be influenced by the Russians or some other country.
And you're not persuaded by the explanation from DNI Ratcliffe that it was because this information is leaked out in past briefings?
Well, look, leaking classified information is a crime, and there are ways to deal with that. And I think that's an important consideration. But I've not yet heard, after 3 days, of what they allege was leaked that was somehow damaging to national security. There's this tricky thing with classification. where sometimes things are classified not because they're national security issues, but because they're embarrassing. And that's, but I'd like to know, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, give me the 6 things that were leaked that were damaging to national security, and then we can assess that. But there are ways to work around this and to get this information to Congress and to declassify what needs to be declassified. That's the real point here, is that this is denying the public's right to know that's information that has been collected by their government that would be helpful to them in making their decision on November 3rd. Cutting that off is just, it stinks. It's just not. It's just not the way this system should be functioning.
And think about the context too. I mean, we're 2 months before the election. Think about what happened 4 years ago. What we were not told, because the reports are that Mitch McConnell tried to block some of this information going public at the time. What we were not told about the Russian efforts before that election, it all comes into play here. Speaking of Russia, there is reporting, and Jeffrey Toobin's book had it first, and the New York Times amplified it, that there was never a serious counterintelligence investigation by the Mueller team. They were looking into possible criminality, but never the counterintelligence angle, which is something that the Senate Intelligence Committee did look into, possible influence that Russia might have over Donald Trump over the years here. What do you make of the discrepancy there, the fact that the Mueller team didn't look into that, and how important was it for your committee to do so?
Well, number one, it was very important for our committee to do it, but the Mueller investigation was a criminal investigation. It was looking for criminal acts that could be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. That was their focus. Our committee focused on what happened, what were the facts. And I just, I didn't know you were going to ask me that question, but I've got, here's 1,000 pages that just was issued last week by our committee that talks about what were the connections between the Trump campaign and the Russians in 2016. We viewed it as a counterintelligence investigation to try to get at the facts. For example, Donald Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, in August of 2016, had a meeting with a Russian intelligence agent where he gave them internal polling data and the strategy of the campaign and what the battleground states are or were. Now, if that isn't, that to a politician, internal polling is a blueprint for a campaign. And that's stated without equivocation in this report that was released, by the way, by a Republican-led committee. It was a voice vote. There was only one negative vote. Truly a bipartisan, a massive piece of work. I just looked, there's 6,000 footnotes. I mean, this is really some deep research. And so we did that work that Mueller didn't. Now, the question is whether people are concerned about it at this point and whether they care.
Senator Angus King from Maine, we appreciate you being with us. The kind of guy you are just to have 1,000 pages sitting around at any given time. We appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
So the head of the